Hi, my name is Ben, and welcome to A Room Without Walls. Today we have a very special guest, Robyn Amelia James. Robyn is a dear friend of mine that I've known since I was a teenager, and we played in a band together, actually. And it's my pleasure to have her with us here today. And I'd just like to say, Robyn, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Bennett. Thank you very much for having
yeah.
me.
And
Yeah,
like I said, I've known Robyn since we were teenagers. And Robyn, tell me about when did you know that you were a transgender woman?
the first time I knew, that's a great question because it's usually mine is typical. 5 years old, and we didn't have the vocabulary for it. We're the same age, our generation and our parents' generation. There just was no, even today, everybody's finally starting to figure out what this thing is really all about, and everybody's learning. I had to learn myself, but at 5 years old, we were driving. I was in the back of our Rambler, and my parents were going to the family friend's house, and my schoolmate, who I didn't know she was my schoolmate yet, she was the same age as well. I saw her on the porch in a sundress, and then I was like, and then it just clicked. It was like that's and I mean, even at that age, I know that certain cultural biases and kicked in. It wasn't something that I could bring up to my parents. I just knew that. I mean, you don't have the vocabulary for anything when you're a 5 year old, but you just kind of know things, right?
Yeah.
And from then, it was repressed and to such a level that I wasn't even aware of it myself. The human mind is amazing what we can do. We put our minds to it, including really negative shit. And but I've learned to honor that because it saved my life. Because the generation we came from, it would be bad news back then. When we were teenagers, um, we might not even have met. It would have been completely different. I probably would have been ostracized, and your choices were like work in the second sex industry, usually prostitution, and you're usually going to die of a drug overdose or some sort of violent encounter because it's like when you're transgender, the homophobia is on a whole other different level of intensity, and people just get furious. So
It truly
anyway,
was a
so what?
different time.
Oh boy, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I even had a lot of preconceptions myself. I had a lot of the same prejudices because I was just trying to really fit in to be one of the guys. But as
Mhm.
you know, I'm not any different than I was then. It's just my gender has changed. That's it.
Yeah.
We've known each other for what? So long. We
Yeah.
met, we were 17, I think,
Yeah.
17, 18 years
Yeah.
old.
Yeah.
And it's been, I mean, I love you dearly, man. I love you like a
Oh
brother.
man, I
And
love you too.
I mean, man, it's like, yeah, I have so much joy talking to you, man. Which is,
We
it's
have
like all
fun.
this, yeah. And we had fun back then too. Those road trips. Oh
Oh,
my God. And Bob's still the same person. It's like the only thing that changes, I'm more comfortable in my body. And that's where the dysphoria comes from. That's why they call it gender dysphoria. But it's different than the kind of dysphoria that a person who's it's when gender is not an issue, who has they look in the mirror and they see a fat person even though they're rail thin.
yeah.
That's a different kind of body dysmorphia, they call it. And that's different. Ours is like we can do some things about it. If I came late in the game, if I'd started early on, like at puberty, I would have developed as a woman, naturally as a woman. It is what it is. I'm still working on getting over the resentment and anger over that. But so push forward my whole life. We I hung out with the guys, and it was okay because we were musicians. We had a lot of
Yeah.
fun. And something I got sober in 1999. I think that my gender dysphoria was a major contributor to my alcoholism and drug addiction. I think I was running away from that because even when the two of us, when we grew into adulthood, and when we were hanging out, I knew something was wrong, but it was important to keep it shoved down. Whatever was fucking going on in my mind, that's got to go, because even then, right, when we were in our 20s, it wasn't safe. It wasn't something that you'd want to, you know, want people to know about. But I don't think I had any inclination. I didn't know the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity, two completely different things, because I'm a lesbian. I'm not, I'm not gay. I mean, I'm not a gay man. So I'm a gay woman. No, it doesn't. Listen, I have transgender female friends. They're straight. Just like, if I think I could make it easy for people, it's like, I'm a woman. Just keep it that simple. And if they're transgender man, they're a man, like Chaz Bono. He's a man. So
Yeah.
if he dates women, he's straight. If he dates other men or bisexual, or some of us are even asexual. They're
Yeah.
just, it's not about the sex. It's not about the sexual drive or anything really. Of course, that's a component of us as a human being, but our identity as a person, that's the core. Our core identity is tied up in, our gender. And so I didn't know when we were going through it. I just know something was there. I couldn't figure it out. And so I got sober in 1999. And it took a while to dig through this stuff, Bennett. It was really just quite. I want to urge anybody who's like, if they have any inkling of this, or they're not sure, just investigate it. That's kind of how I did it at first. I started, by the time I was maybe 15 years sober, I started looking up online, started Googling and seeing, do I have any, what is this thing about? Is this possible? And I thought I was just kind of a weird cross dresser. I thought of like I was a fetishist. And I had to go through this thing. And I got lucky because I'm really in a very comprehensive recovery program, and it's a 12-step program. So everybody probably can figure that one out. And I'm very involved in it. And it's a spiritual program. It's a big component of it. It's also a program where we delve into what's going on. Like our process is called, uncover, discover, and, throw it away. Uncover, discover, whatever. I can't remember now. But
Let go.
but that's what we do. Yeah, you just let it go.
Yeah.
You get rid of the things that don't work anymore. You keep the things that work and you get rid of the things that don't work,
Yeah.
and that's how we stay sober. But it also applies to a lot of areas of my life. And you get personal with the people that sponsor you, and, grow to trust them, and you tell them all this stuff. You open up the closet, and you say, this is what's going on. And they say, okay, well, let's explore this. I also got really lucky that, I started going to therapy around 2001, because they discovered, after I was sober a couple of years, 2002, that I was bipolar. That was the first, level B, not the kind that like, writes bad checks all over town. And, but through that process, I was able to start doing this. Now, what I want to say is that if you have this, investigate it, but be easy on yourself, and don't be in a rush. If you're younger generations, it's easier. I don't really get much crap from people under 40, 30 years old. They're just like, oh, cool, whatever. How are you treating me? Are you being a nice person or not?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's how it should be. The life it should be
Right.
that way,
Right.
right? Just,
Yeah.
my religion is don't be a dick. That's my religion. Which I fail miserably at it plenty of times, but I try to get better. But I just want to say that. And so it took I was about 18 years sober. So yeah, I was 2017, 2018. So about 16 years of sobriety as well, 16 years of therapy as well. And this last therapist, we really got into it. We really did a lot of work, started with the PTSD, and that was just started digging up other things. And I've always been really honest with my therapist. I've always been like I learned how to be like, tell the embarrassing things, the things that I was ashamed of. And so it's uncover, discover, discard. So
Oh,
as
okay.
I found, yeah, it makes more sense. So as I found these things about myself, like, and then it was a progress. So it was like, um, I don't want to be a cross dresser. It's weird, right? But then I would go into acceptance. Okay, well, I had a sponsor who said, it's not weird as long as you're not weird about it. I don't know what she meant. She just meant, it's a thing you do behind closed doors or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And so the acceptance was, okay, well, if I am, then I am. Okay. That's just it. People have fetishes, whatever it's going to be. So I went down the road. I kept my mind open, and it's like, oh, that's not it. And I started coming to the point where I realized I was just more comfortable in women's clothes, being a woman, just being in women's clothes. It wasn't a sexual thing. It wasn't a cross-dressing thing. It wasn't something that I got off on sexually. It was just like, I'm comfortable. I finally feel right. Like, and that
Yeah.
was weird. We explored that. And then as I uncovered it, started opening up. I'd go out at night to the trans clubs and talk to the girls there and see what was going on. And still in a lot of denial, still in a lot of repression. And, in that place where I hope this isn't true, till I could get to the point where I'd say, okay, I guess it's true and I'm okay with it. If that's who I am, that's who I am. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, you could be happy or you can't. You're going to be, if you can't accept it and you're going to be unhappy about it, then that's what you decided to do. The universe is okay. If you tell me so, if that's what you say, I guess that's what it is. you know,
It takes a lot of
And-
bravery to live in our own truth.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
gets me to the point where I had that spiritual experience. So, you know, um, that's a big thing in recovery too, the spiritual experience. And we have big small ones, but it happens to every human being on earth. It's I'm sure you've had small ones and bigger ones, where you just sat there and you felt that presence of something bigger than yourself. And I'm a deist. I don't practice religion. I'm not a theist. I'm not an agnostic. I'm not a atheist. I believe in, for lack of a better word, a God.
Yeah.
And English language is limited, but that would be the best description of what I believe in. And I don't believe in it. I know it. I have a relationship with God.
Yeah.
God doesn't visit me all the time. I'm not insane. Um, my experience is it's a very intense experience. And if you think that you want to be in that intensity that long, I think then you're insane. The people, I just want to be around God all the time. It's pretty intense. The experiences I had, most of them were just on a kind of level, like I got sober, I could die. And it was the voice. It was just the inner voice. It was just an inner voice, but it wasn't me. It was like, this road is death and it's going to be tough. And this road is life. Can't tell you exactly what's going to happen, but at least you got a shot. And I've had a lot of those. But this was different. I had done a lot of digging, a lot of exploring, a lot of uncovering, a lot of acceptance, and then moving on when the answer wasn't quite right. Okay, then what is it? It's not this. What is it? Let's go again. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's dig a little deeper. And it was a fantastic process. That's why I say, if you, whatever people issues, emotional problems people may have out there, or whether it's with sexual orientation or gender identification or really anything else, don't be afraid to see what it is. If there's something that is, it's in the back of your subconscious and it's bothering you and you never really figured it out because it's kind of scary, go for it. Find the people that find a support group, and find a good therapist and work your way through it. And it's really worthwhile. It's very, It's really, you find out a lot of stuff about yourself. So not so much, so honestly, so mm, not so much courage as is was the message that I got from God, which was no matter what you decide, I've got your back. I love you unconditionally. And that happened in my therapist's office. And we were talking, we finally got to the point. I was already at the point where I was, just dressing in women's clothes in the bathroom and coming in there. And I still was in denial to a certain extent, or not sure. I'm not really sure. It could be right. It's so obvious right now. I even have pictures of myself still as a man, like 3 years before, where I was already starting to feminize and not on purpose. I was already starting to remove hair, and it would just happen naturally because I
Yeah,
became more
natural.
comfortable. Yeah, you get more comfortable with yourself.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
gonna be comfortable. It's just that's it. You make a decision about life. It's the we went through that. We learned we were really into that when we were kids. I remember, can't remember Jonathan Siegel or something like that. It was about
Jonathan
visualization.
Livingston Seagull. The
Yeah,
book.
the positive
Yeah.
visualization stuff. That's really, I mean, it's really when you get past, if it's not really as airy fairy as it sounds, because you are really directing your mind, and the feet follow. You're directing your heart, and the feet follow. And that's where you go, and the vibe is everywhere. So that was what was happening. I was just like getting more comfortable with who I was. I was accepting that this, even if I was uncomfortable with the truth, I was accepting it. So I'm in the office, and we were just there, and it was just like there was no other conclusion, right? We're talking, and suddenly the room filled with this soft, warm light, and I felt surrounded by this blanket of unconditional love. It was intense. It was
Wow.
I felt a shock go up my spine or down my spine or whatever. It felt like a lightning bolt. And then this happened. And then and then God was right there. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It wasn't, there wasn't any place for existential questions like, why did 6 million people in Nazi, what the fuck was that about? There was no space for that. It wasn't like, I was going to be able to, it wasn't a conversation. It wasn't like, you know, it wasn't like that. It was just about what was happening at that moment. And I
Was it
saw
a
this, and
felt presence?
yeah, there was no doubt. And that was God. I'd never questioned before that. I'd like had spiritual experiences, and I was always like, yeah, okay, but I'd always wonder, was that, maybe some chemistry going on? And even still, I'm open to that idea. If somebody feels that way, that's your reality, that's your truth. I honor that. I have friends who are atheists, agnostic, Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim and Christian, whatever. I honor that. That's your thing. Then you do it, man. If it works for you, and if an older man taught me that. He said that's real. They're right. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, they're right. That's them. That's their relationship
That's their
and their
reality.
life. It
Yeah.
is. It absolutely is. They're 100% right. That's not your reality, and it's not your business. It's not your job,
Right.
to convince people
Right.
something. It's like this is a personal journey, right? Everybody
Yeah.
gets figures it out
Yeah.
or doesn't. And
So your
so
reality, your experience, can
yeah, that
you
was
extrapolate on that a little bit?
yeah,
This is
so
fascinating.
it was amazing. It was like kind of being the thing I remember most was it was the unconditional love was the warm light unconditional love was immediate. It was just all around. It was like I'm safe. You know what I mean? And then you like when God talked, I couldn't hear a voice. It wasn't a voice. It was a light you can't see. I didn't mean to sound cryptic about it, but there was no light that came into the room. It wasn't like the room changed it,
A
the
feeling.
lighting changed. No, this was like an inner, almost like I went into some other kind of
Ooh.
reality. And I haven't taken drugs for a long time. And then I was 18 years sober. Man. I've been in therapy a long time. So,
Yeah.
it wasn't mental illness. So whatever. But so I knew that. And I had much lesser experiences before that, but still they'd been increasingly more intense. But this process of taking so long and finally getting to this place that was really at the core of most of my fucking problems was when it was obvious, that's when God stepped in. Like, you did a lot of good work, that was kind of like the feeling. And then here's your truth. This is your truth. I love you no matter what. And whatever way you want to go. And this is all happening all at once. It's really hard to describe. Again, it's not a conversation. But I'm there and I'm seeing my life from the time I'm 5 years old all the way up to that moment in time. And I'm seeing a playback of that. It's just all this is not, it's not in like our idea of time. It's not in like our idea of time. And then it was from that point on, like if I stay in the closet, this is kind of like what it'll be like, you know. And if I come out, this will it wasn't like I wasn't given lotto numbers. I wasn't told, how I was going to die. I wasn't promised eternal salvation or eternal damnation if I was a bad girl. It was none of that stuff was told. I was not told what spiritual literature to read or what religion to follow or any of that stuff. It was just like God and me. And God was like, this is your truth. And I got you. I got your back. That unconditional love was, I got your back no matter what. And it was just, it was an amazing experience. I saw some of the things that might happen. It was more like possibilities. And like, if I came out, I could lose gigs, I could lose jobs, I could lose friends. And a lot of that stuff happened, I just didn't know how. God didn't give me any specific dates. I could take to a bookie. On this date, I'm going to get fired from this band. But
did that make you question this decision?
No,
no,
because it was like because that experience was so intense that it was like it's like, well, who is anybody? God is God. Who are you? You're just another person.
Question.
Yeah, you just go and get your own experience. But as far as I know, I got the big guy on my side. I mean, I got go for it. I got you no matter which way you go. This is but this is your truth. You can go either way. Here's a little glimpse of how it might go. And then I came back into, I looked up and my therapist was right there and she was like looking like this. Like she goes, did you feel that shot go up your spine? And I go, yeah. And I told her what happened. And from her point of view, it was just no time had left. It was like she felt something. She saw me feel so. She felt it. I felt it. She felt it. And then there I was talking to her. But I don't even know. That could have, like, that was something that could have been 5 minutes long or something. It was another space, another dimension, sort of like, I don't know. I don't want to get too weird, airy fairy about it because, it's, that's my experience. That's what I know about it, and, but your point is well taken. From that point on, then it just, excuse me, from that point on, then it just kept going, getting better. My acceptance of it and what I was going to do. And it was immediate. My doctor goes, okay, well, we're going to find you a gender health specialist. And they hooked me up with UCLA and Dr. Weimer at UCLA. And she's just an amazing woman. And they're an amazing department. I've since gone to the one at Cedars too, and they have amazing people there as well. And I just feel really eternally grateful for all the people behind me. And I also had this is a funny experience because, there were people that, I was surprised by the people that had a problem with it. And I was also surprised by the people that were like, not just okay, but really supportive. One guy was, Dr. George, was a survivor of the Battle of the Bulge. He's like, one of the last World War II vets, right? And he and his best buddy Kurt Vonnegut, they survived. They were the 17 soldiers that survived when the SS Nazi troops slaughtered that whole battalion of American soldiers. They were the 17. And so, Dr. George liked me. I showed up at a meeting, he's in recovery, and, I showed up at a meeting and I just like ripped the bandage off. I showed up at a meeting in a dress, and Dr. George sees me and he goes, Rob, come over here, come over here. He goes, oh, give me a hug. And his wife
Oh,
goes,
wow.
oh man. He goes, I had no idea. And he goes, man, you need any help, you need anything at all. This is a tough dude. This is a tough motherfucker, right? And the same thing happened with my friend Richie. He's another, this is a guy he's a, Jewish kid in fucking Chicago, and he's driving for the Italian mob. This is, so he's another tough dude. He's not, it's like, he's seen some shit, right?
Right.
And he was the same thing. Rob, come here. Oh man, I love you. If you need any help, I know some people I can help you. And it's like, oh shit. Right? It was like, wow. Hey, when God said he had my back, he wasn't messing around.
It
But I
seems
also
like
found,
it seems like the people who have been through hell and back were the ones who were the most understanding of your
yeah, that's a good
situation
point.
because they could relate to your experience through that level.
I think
Yeah,
that's a very good point. Yeah, that
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
those guys were in the trenches.
Really.
They saw some nasty shit and survived it.
Yeah. And so were you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did. And I still see those guys. I still love him.
Nice.
Dr. George is 98 now, just turned 98.
Yeah.
They and then I lost gigs. You know,
Hmm.
um, I had the Santana tribute band I was playing in, and it was my big gig because it paid well
Yeah,
and
yeah.
played in front of big audiences, thousands of people. I mean, if there was 1,000 people at a show, that was small. You know what I mean? It's like one of
Yeah,
those kind
yeah.
of bands. It was fun, and
Yeah, you were doing a Santana tribute band, you were doing a Led Zeppelin tribute
Zeppelin and
band,
a Doors.
Doris
Yeah,
tribute
did all
band.
these.
Yeah, you had all kinds of good stuff going on.
Yeah,
And so
it was sort of like,
the Santana gig, uh, they let you go?
yeah. What happened was, I told the band director, the band leader, and then there's this quiet on the phone, right? And I'd already decided I wasn't going to go to Arizona and you know um,
The
as
gig was in
myself.
Arizona.
I was going to go in disguise as a man, because at this point,
Oh,
that's how I looked at it. I'd
okay.
been in disguise my whole life, but now I decided, I finally figured that out. So,
Just to do a gig in
okay,
Arizona?
some places in Arizona, you know, I'm terrified of those red states. And then we talked
Yeah.
about that. I am terrified. I don't know if we'll fly over a red state and we have to stop in an airport. I don't know you know, if that's regulated by federal law or local laws, state laws, but they have some state laws in some of these states. If I use a woman's bathroom and an underage female goes in there, I could be arrested for a sex crime.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, wow.
And where am I? You look at me. Where am I supposed to go? The men's room? I'm not a man. I don't even have man parts anymore. They changed everything. I mean, I got everything changed. I'm happy and comfortable, but apparently it's an issue.
Yeah,
So
it's a
it's
real
a scary
issue.
world out there, and it's a
Yeah.
scary world when I look at because the LGBTQ Center and Human Rights Watch and all that, they've released like a chart on which parts of the world are dangerous and which parts are safe for
Hmm.
LGBTQ people. Then they break it down into each level. So
Of the world or of the country?
the world, the country, and the world, state by
Okay.
state, and then the world also. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a pretty extensive list, and then they grade them, and I mean, then they tell you what the consequences are. I mean, there's some countries in Africa where
Oh,
they could
yeah.
give me a death sentence,
Uganda.
life, 30
Yeah.
years, life, death sentence. Yeah, Uganda.
Yeah.
Um, like the pyramids, had to scratch them off my bucket list.
Hmm.
I mean, what am I gonna do? I really wanted to see them. Just too dangerous, man. I guess I could do it. I mean,
You wear a
I'm not that
burqa.
brave. I'm 6'3" though, too. Remember, it's really hard. I got big hands and big feet, so it's really hard to like pass. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. This is a
my
bad joke.
my
Sorry
my
about
transgender friends that transitioned early pass.
it. Yeah.
They pass.
Hmm.
Yeah, they do.
What's that all about?
Well, because you haven't developed, completely, like, especially if you start as a teenager. If you start, Nicole Maines is a good example. She's a actress. She played a major co-starring role on Supergirl, not our demographic. It's for young teenage girls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But she played for years, and she's a woman. She had her story. This will maybe help people. She was she was 5 years old. It's five is like it's like, I guess five is when you start developing a sense of yourself and the outside world. You start becoming more of a
Mm-hmm.
sense of what, where you're at, your place in it, and what's going on around you, I think, right? That's probably about why. I don't know. I'm just psychological arm sharing here, but I think that's probably a reason why. But it's very common amongst
Yeah.
transgender people. That's not something that they. Sometimes it's later on, but a lot of times it's like they knew. We just knew, but we didn't know where to go. But she was lucky; she had parents that were really lovely. Her father was conservative Christian, and he was shocked by it. But this man is just such a wonderful man. He was crying as he said in an interview. He said, I wanted to do right by my daughter. It wasn't about me,
Yeah.
I wanted to take care of my daughter. And it's interesting because she has a twin brother who's not transgender at all. But she started, they don't, I want to dispel some other myths too. They don't do any irreversible procedures before you're 18. They just, not in the United States or the Western or Europe, or as far as
Illegally.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't. I mean, they just don't. And the involvement level, because this is important, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. The involvement level of not just the patient, but their parents, if they're under 18, it's as an adult. I mean, a 58-year-old adult at the time, and I went through it. Um, I had to not only have a long interview with my new primary care doctor, who
Oh,
was
yeah.
co-director of the gender health unit, the gender health department. But I mean like an hour long interview. That's
Sure.
before she would, and still she didn't just like prescribe me estrogen. That's the
Right.
first start, right? She still was like, okay, now you're going to come, you're going to talk to you know, um, the our psychiatrist at the hospital, one of our main psychiatrists. So you go in there, and it's another interview process, and they go through a whole thing. So they're not messing around. It's not just like, I'm transgender and give me
Yeah.
some
Mm.
medications and some surgery. They're not even no. We got to know. First of all, we want to know that you're not off your rocker, you know, and we need to know that it's not, that there's not a lot of other things going on, and that and on top of that, I had to have a letter. So I had to have a letter from my therapist. I had to have a form and a letter from the psychiatrist at the hospital. And then my doctor said, okay, let's start with this. And every process, the way got harder and harder. When you got into the surgeries, I had to have my therapist and that same psychiatrist sign off on it, and my primary care physician sign off on it, and the surgeon. And I interview every single one of them. And it's been that way all down the line. They don't just go, sure.
Right.
And when you're
Right.
and when you're under 18, it's even more. And the
Yeah.
parents are involved. They're
Liability.
involved in this. It's also, yeah, they don't
Yeah.
want to do no harm. You know,
Sure. Sure.
So there's not very many people that go, oh my God, I made a mistake. It's pretty rare. It's like so rare. I think there's maybe a
Mhm.
handful that made a stink about it. And I really think these people are kind of whatever. It's just my opinion. Because you don't just walk in the door and then you just okay, I went to a sex change operation today. Even if I want hormones, it's not that easy.
Yeah.
It's just not like that. So anyway, and they don't do any, you're not going to get any gender reassignment surgery before you're 18. It's just not going to happen.
And then there's a whole
So
process of inquisition and finding out what's really going on. And
in depth, you have to
yeah,
have been under the care of a therapist for like a year or two, at least minimum.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then they got to be involved, and they're incommunicado with your doctor, and the other psychiatrist there, and the surgeon, and they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
So you're jumping through a lot of hoops to get approval, and it's a month-long process, and
Mhm.
the whole process takes years, really.
At that time, did you feel you were being cared for and really looked
Yes,
after?
yeah,
Good,
100%.
good,
Those
good.
people are those people that work in that field
They're on your
are
side.
the best.
Yeah.
And yeah, and they want to be
Nice,
there. And
nice.
they're the best doctors in the world. I mean, they really are. They're the kind of doctors when you go in for surgery or the nurses will go, she's great. That's a really great doctor. They
Nice.
whisper it to you.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't always, I
yeah.
don't get that. I've never had that experience before, but these doctors they're like world renowned doctors.
Yeah.
They're like really serious. It's really amazing. So I've been like really blessed. I think one of the greatest things UCLA did was I got it was a facial feminization surgery.